Good morning and welcome back to the fourth episode of the Find Your Place podcast. We are your hosts, Bianca and Jessica. Today, we have an incredible soul sitting with us. He is a thought leader in human potential and growth. He is a speaker, a mindset coach who, thanks to his big heart and his initiatives, has helped so many people get through the pandemic, and not just through the pandemic, but thrive through it. And if we're friends on Instagram, you've likely seen my post at 5 a.m. in the morning with a group of 100 people on Zoom reading books. And if that's the case, then you're in for a treat, because this incredible person who's sitting right in front of Bianca and I today, he is the founder of this community known as the Wake Up Call, or otherwise known as the Gym for Your Mind. So mentor, mindset coach, speaker, mortgage broker, entrepreneur, all titles aside, Joe, I truly think that there is one common theme that stands true in all of the work that you do, and that theme is passion. And Bianca and I are so excited to have you here today to share with us all of the things that set your soul on fire, and to hear about all the things that you're doing for the communities that you're a part of. So, Joe Trimboli, welcome to the fourth episode of the Find Your Place podcast.
Wow, what an intro. Love it. Thanks. I'm so happy to be here. You both inspire me so much. Your posts are so engaging and incredible, and you're a giver, and I can't thank you enough for having me.
We're very happy to have you here. Thanks.
Joe, we are so happy to have you. I think that for me, I'm just like fired up to ask you questions that I don't know if I know that you've mentioned these things, but because you're always helping everyone, and there's such little talk of you sometimes, I want to know about how you got to creating the 5 a.m. call, and more importantly, I want to talk about how long it took you to get there, because we have so many people that feel like they're at a certain place in their life and they're stuck, and maybe they're too old, or they don't have time, or what was it for you?
Joe, I think before you go in there, I remember Bianca and I were talking this morning, and she was saying that Joe is the perfect example of someone who found his place at a time where most people would say,
I'm giving up.
Or I'm too old.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so first, what I'd say to those people who feel stuck or lost, if you're feeling stuck, it's because you're emotionally involved or focusing on what is presently in your life, your current circumstances, conditions, and that is influencing our thoughts. And when you understand that our thoughts cause us to feel something, we take action according to how we're feeling, it produces a result. If that's all born of the originating thought from the results that are in our lives, that's what we keep getting. So we get more of the same. So if you're feeling stuck, it's because you're thinking about what already is. If you want to get unstuck, you got to start thinking about what you want and start taking action towards it. And it's funny because the second you start taking action, you start to feel better. Right? It's kind of like when you have a mess in your room and you kind of like you dwell on it and it's rotting you out, and then you finally just say, okay, and you just lift one thing up, and the second you lift it up, you feel better, right?
What was it for you what were the thoughts that you had previously? What were the sort of negative version of those thoughts? And then what was the process to get to the positive ones that created the transformation?
Yeah, so the good news is that no matter how stuck a person is, when you become aware of certain things, you can immediately affect a change, right? So when you start focusing on what you want, you set up a different action. Like there's a different expectation, and there's a lot behind all that. And I guess to say it simply, I mean, you said something about passion, and my passion used to be expressed as anger. Like there's this fire inside of me. And when you don't understand things, you're frustrated, right? You're getting a result. Your actions don't really match what your intentions are. You keep getting the same thing. And that expression of who you really are isn't true. It's like you're acting in a way that doesn't reflect who you really are. So really becoming aware of certain things started to get me focusing on the right thing. So in my case, personally, I'm a mortgage broker. I had been in the business already for 16 years when I first became aware of certain things. And the one statement that really got it for me was, what you don't fix, your kids inherit. And that one hurt. You know, you got 3 girls. I was a father of, got little girls at home. And you know, you realize that maybe you reacted in a way you shouldn't have reacted. I mean, I never was abusive, but anger, I think, is a form of abuse for a child, right? They don't understand it. So just that caused me to want to really learn more about myself, my thinking. And the only way anything could have happened or any change could have happened was through studying. And so for me personally, it happened through a program called Thinking into Results. Bob Proctor was my mentor. And it was important to me that he was the guy. There's a lot of people talking about this stuff that don't really understand it, that might be coming from a place that you don't resonate with. And he was just so humble and human and relatable, right? Like, he's such a good man. And I chose to really take on what he was saying. And it was probably information I had heard 10 years, 15 years prior that I just dismissed, right? Like,
don't we do that a lot? Don't we do that often?
Yeah.
Some things make sense all of a sudden that never made sense before.
Yeah.
And so that is proof of the fact that we need repetition. Like, everything we've learned and the dominating thoughts, the way we think, is a result of thoughts or logic, philosophies that have been repeated, whether it be by other people, our parents, our teachers, media, social media, news, ourselves, our own internal dialogue. It sets up an internal dominating thought that all other thoughts are born of. And this is the part, like, I know I'm drifting from your original question, but this is the part that's so cool.
This is perfect.
We're in autopilot 95% of the time, right? We have a conscious and a subconscious mind. We're only really thinking on purpose 5% of the day, right? 95% of the time, we're doing things habitually without any thought. So what's controlling that behavior when you're not thinking, that 95%? It's that dominating thought. So if your dominating thought is scarcity or the problems you have in your life, every thought is born of that. So the second something happens, your automatic reaction is born of scarcity. So you don't see an opportunity. You see a challenge. You see an obstacle. If you think all people are, can we swear on this podcast?
Assholes. Do whatever you want.
If you think, if the dominating thought is people are shit because you've been let down and people don't behave the way you expect them to, then the moment something happens, your automatic response is rooted in that belief. Whereas somebody who's a happy person, who believes people are beautiful and that there's opportunities, will see a very different perception of the same thing. And when you take this further, you understand it's your behavior, which was a reaction to that gets you the results. So in a very short time, after 16 years of like frustration, I'm glad I took it back because I've totally went in a different direction. After 16 years of, I'd say probably average results at best in an industry. It was me changing my outlook. I became grateful in an industry that I used to complain about. I took responsibility for my results. I started to create things that for me translated in me understanding my own value. It wasn't, about, so I'm going to speak in my terms in my industry, it wasn't about rate anymore. It wasn't about answering every single phone call and doing every single deal, working 24 hours, 7 days a week. It was about my communication, my client journey, the consistency, knowing that deal was going to fund without any headaches, paying attention and actually listening to the client's needs despite what they're saying and being able to address those. So that's all a cause of an effect. And the effect ended up being way more volume, a lot more efficient work, focusing on the things I wanted to do, hiring somebody to do the stuff I didn't like to do. And over time, it's only taken 5 years, but the shift started happening almost immediately. But it starts from shifting from a victim mentality, from complaining about things, from feeling like everything's happening to you, and no matter what I do, I can't get ahead. I used to say if there's no such thing as bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. right? How many people you hear? And I joke about that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And if you understand what Emerson said, the only thing that can grow is that which you give energy to.
Yeah.
So when people hear this, they immediately become, oh my God, yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But do they make the change? The change requires repetition of a new idea, of a new state of being.
Again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
Would you say that a lot of it is the response is that there's a dominant thought, and that's that subconscious thing that's running in the background, and that when something happens, that there's that thing that's happening is further proof for that person that dominant thought is the truth and reality, that it's just constant evidence.
Didn't I say? Of course, the guy ends up being a jerk, right? But your root thinking, that dominant belief is that all men are shit.
Yes.
Or all men are assholes or whatever. And then what ends up happening, you project yourself in a way because buddy said something or didn't do something or didn't walk on the right side of the street.
Yeah.
And so the second that happens, you're tuned into that and you see it. And you'll miss all the times that he's being a gentleman or that he's being the kind of guy that you want him to be. And so you maybe answer in a certain way, but you project an energy in response to that, according to how you're feeling. And then he reacts to that. And then you end up in a place where you're like, see,
I knew it. Self-fulfilling prophecy again and again, isn't it?
So I'm going to compliment you right now, Joe. I hope you take this as a compliment. I view as a positive thing. You remind me so much of Joe Dispenza. When I listen to you speak, like just you sound the same, and I think everything that you have to share is so enlightening. And there was one episode that I was watching him speak, and he was essentially saying, you know, asking the question, do we think our environment affects our thinking, or does our thinking affect our environment? And I brought that up to...
Ooh, that's like chicken and the egg. At first you think you know the answer to that, but that's actually more complicated than
it sounds. So I brought it up to a group of students that I was with, and immediately they're like, oh, I know what the answer is. I know what it is. I said, there's no right or wrong. It's just, what do you think? Let's dissect this. So based on the things that you've been teaching us and through all of your study, because you've been doing it for quite some time, what do you think is, I don't want to say the correct answer, but help us dissect that. Do you think environment affects your thinking, or your thinking affects your environment?
Well, I'm going to say something.
You know, it's going to be good when he prefaces it. This is like...
Yeah, so Einstein actually had a quote similar. He said, what kind of universe, is this a kind of universe that we live in? And your answer to that will give you a good indication of who you are. Mm-hmm. And so I used to believe it was circumstances and conditions that influenced was it my thinking, my conditions?
Yeah, your thinking, yeah. Thoughts.
But now I know. See, there's truth and then there's appearances, right?
Yeah.
There's truth. Truth is, you know, things will fall if you drop them because of the law of gravity. Every single time, for everyone. Doesn't matter if you're a good person, a bad person. And there's laws that we're all governed by, that influence everything in our lives the same way as gravity does, but we don't recognize them. And so when you become aware that energy is always moving into form, and thought is energy, that we can originate thought, we can choose whatever we want to think about in that 5% of the day that we're actually consciously thinking. Mm-hmm. That's when you decide what you want despite the environment. So I know that, yes, current circumstances, conditions, and there's people that will find that almost like a toxic statement, like, you don't understand, I'm being abused. And my heart goes out. Yeah. But what we have to recognize is nobody's going to come and change that environment for you. Mm-hmm. It starts with the thinking. And then from there, you take responsibility for your life, right? And so I know that it's actually your thinking that produces your environment. Everything in our lives right now is a result of our previous way of thinking. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that it's not, you know, it was your fault, that the child abuse was your fault, or the domestic abuse was your fault, or the bankruptcy was your fault. It's irrelevant of whose fault it is. It is what you're going to do with that. So if we change what happened to us to it happened for us, what are the lessons? Understanding that everything happens for a reason. One of my favorite things, Dr. Michael Beckwith said it. He's referencing something in the Bible, I think it was. God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. So translate that to everyday terms.
Please say that one more time.
God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. So if you've had...
Amen.
Yeah, right? If you've had like big challenges in your life, big adversities, and there's something called the law of polarity. Everything has an equal and opposite. Mm-hmm. So you can't have a left without a right, an up without a down, an inside without an outside, a good without a bad. So when you understand that, understand that it's by law. Now, it's not philosophical. It's the way it is. Then you understand that every adversity, Napoleon Hill said, every adversity brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. So whatever that the worse it is, that means the better it can be.
Exactly.
Because if it's a little bit bad, it can be a little bit good. If it's really, 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 really bad, then it can be really, really, really good, right?
Oh, I like that.
So you had talked about your mentor, Bob Proctor, and there was a word that you mentioned. He was very relatable. And I find that you share that quality as well. Yeah. Very, very relatable. I think I speak to Joe more than I speak to my own friends or family. I mean, we see each other on the 5 a.m. wake up call 5 days a week. Saturday mornings, we have our thinking to results. And one thing that really stands out about you is you talk about the adversities in your life. You don't pretend to act like you have everything figured out. And I think that's why so many of us are drawn to you. I mean, that's why I was very drawn to you, you know, someone who we don't really know that deeply. We met over Zoom, but is able to talk about vulnerability and talk about the adversities, you know, that he has faced. So Bianca and I obviously like to talk about the positives, but we also like to talk about how we go through certain things in life and it's not happening to us, it's happening for us. And I've learned this from you. So help us understand, what are some of the challenges that you face in life that you think have really helped build character and that have led you on the path that you are on?
That created all of this greatness, because there's a lot of greatness here, Joe. So we want to hear about that other stuff too.
Yeah, well, it's cool because it's humbling to recognize that it's not really you. That you're just becoming aware of things that are causing you to work in harmony with some of these laws that I mentioned, right? And I know it could sound kind of like trippy, like what the hell is this guy talking about? Laws of the universe. And trust me, I'm one of those guys too, but I try to share things in a very relatable way and how those things apply to our lives and in our work and the things that we do. But I think I'm relatable because I make myself very brutally, honestly vulnerable, and I know that we're all going through the same thing, and people don't really talk about those things, but it's the lessons that come with those. So, I mean, listen, I had cancer. I was 21 years old, and I was angry, even with that, right? Like, and I was, on the surface, we have two images, right? There's the one that we have of ourselves, and then the one that we project onto the world and the way people see you. And so looking at me, you'd think, oh, this guy's got it going on. He's okay. He's good. And but internally, it's a struggle, right? And I think a lot of people feel that way. So through high school, socially, you'd think, yeah, this guy's all right. There's no problems. And work, I always had a job. I think I started working when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
God forbid I was seen with my hands in my pocket. My dad would throw some. Actually, my dad would never throw something at me. But, you know, he'd like, hey, what are you doing with your hands in your pocket, right? So it was very much like, you got to work.
Yeah.
Very much money was for other people. Hard times, can't catch a break. And, you know, if somebody else was having success.
A lot of old school mentality, like older generation like this, because that is their experience, right, for them.
Yeah, and it's true to them, but it's not true.
Yeah.
Right? It's the story, it was their perception of it. But then we accept those things as our truth.
Yeah.
Because when we're kids, we're going, okay, right? Oh, money's for other people. Okay. Yeah. So when you understand that at its core, and that you understand that now we have these programs running internally, we see everything through that. We take action through that. So, you know, cancer comes. There's no such thing as bad luck. Of course, I was put here to struggle.
Yeah.
What the hell? Like, why me? Then I'd have to go to my appointments downtown. I'd complain about the parking and the traffic, and then I'd complain about having to go there and sit and wait for 2 hours to see a doctor. And, you know, 20 years later, as I become aware of these things, I'm 40 years old. I'd probably never read a book up until this point. I think I read the Chrysalids like in a couple hours, but I skimmed through it in grade 8 or whatever that
Keyword
was,
skim.
You know? Yeah. No, I had never read a book. And so as you start to become aware, and it's just a shift in perception. Dr. Wayne Dyer said, change the way you look at a thing, the thing you're looking at changes. So I went from feeling like the victim to understanding that cancer happened for me. Like, what is the good in it? Yeah, there is no good about having cancer, but there's a seed of an equivalent advantage. You got to plant the seed. You got to harvest it. You got to work at it. You got to give it energy. You got to water it. You got to make sure you turn the soil and pluck the weeds. So I changed my perception of it. I became very grateful for the fact that I can go to one of the country's best hospitals, actually in North America, Mount Sinai, and that I can go there for free and I don't have to worry about where the money's going to come from, and that I can drive my car there and find parking.
Right.
And it's just a different energy. And you know, you realize that then in your own business. In my business, I went from complaining about the industry I was in because I didn't feel like that's what was meant for me. Felt like I was always with one foot out the door, 16 years, going to work thinking this isn't for me. And in an instant, it changed because I became very grateful for the fact that I'm in an industry I can make my own hours. There's no ceiling to what I can earn. I can work whenever I want. And yeah, there are parts of the industry that I hate, but there are parts of the industry that I absolutely love, right? Understanding a person's goals and being with them during one of the few milestones in their lives. And so you change that and it sets up a very different outcome. And so now that plays out, now you start to get in the habit of finding the good. So all of those adversities, all of those challenges in my life, they're no better or worse than anyone else's, because to us, it's the worst thing.
Yeah.
When it's happening, there is no good in it. But when you understand the law, you know that even though I can't see the good in this right now and it sucks and I wish I didn't have to go through this, there's good in it. I can grow from it.
The interesting thing about these adversities and these horrible things that happen, you're saying that there could be great things that come from it. I keep going back to everything that I've been through, all of these insane things, and as well as everyone else. And I think that when I started realizing that my life isn't about me, like you're saying, your life isn't about you, really, like all of the fun stuff, all of the purposeful, meaningful stuff that we feel ever has to do when we're providing some sort of value to another human being. Mm-hmm. Everything else matters none, and you don't understand it until you provide that value for the first time and you go, wow, that felt better than winning the lottery. Like that felt amazing. So like that, all of these are adversities, these horrible things that happen, build a sort of empathy muscle that has you be able to trigger something inside of you that goes, oh, this person's going through what I went through, so I'm able to pull up and muster up all those feelings that I had and the way that I dealt with it and offer that value. So I would argue that, man, you need a lot of crap to happen to you so that you can be of service to the world in the best ways. Yeah.
It's all about that. It's all about providing service. Yeah. When you come from a place of service, well, I forget what the quote is, but it's basically, you get the results of a king when you serve. And I forget how it's said, I'm sorry, but and what you're saying is also in the law of giving and receiving, another law. Giving starts the receiving process. Giving is the first action in receiving. And so often we're looking to get. We show up to get, right? Yeah. You go apply to a job and you're looking to get. Well, the people that show up knowing about the business that they've applied for, knowing what their value will be and how they can help and what the company's vision is and what they're prepared to give, they don't even concern themselves with what they're going to earn. They know that's a natural. See, you don't have to worry about what you're going to get paid. You will always get paid what you're worth. And so coming from that place of service, but like you were saying, also all the stuff that you've been through has been qualifying you for maybe this podcast. Because now, and so you can sit here now, look back, connect the dots and say, yeah, when I went through this relationship, when I did that, when I had this thing going on, I learned from it and now this is what I can serve you with. But you can't do that from where you were looking forward and figure out how this podcast is going to happen or whatever it is you're doing in your life, right? So it's really cool to understand that. Stop trying to figure out how it's going to happen. I did not muster up this master plan. So you asked me a question. Don't think I forgot.
No, that's okay.
How the wake-up call happened. I didn't muster up this a phenomenal plan that I'm going to start this community in the call. It was an accident. I understand that it wasn't an accident because there are no accidents, but I'm going to say it in the sense that we all understand it. It was an accident because all I did was I took action and I started to serve. So it started off with a call. It was a mastermind. It was myself and 3 of my friends that we were going through that, thinking into results together. And Bob would always say, you have to study, you have to study. And he talked about how he reads this book every single day, Think and Grow Rich, reads it every day. Doesn't read the entire book, even if it's a sentence or a paragraph or a page or a chapter. He reads it every day for 60 some odd years. So I said, guys, why don't we get on the call in the morning? We'll read together, and then we'll kind of like chat about what we read.
I love this story.
Yeah, and so we did that for probably a year or 2. And
just the 3 of you?
Just 4 of us.
4 of you.
Yeah. And, you know, one of them is in the industry that I'm in, and we'd go to events, and he would talk about this thing that we do. Yeah, I'm up at 5 a.m.
And you weren't about that. You were like, whatever.
No, and people would say they want to come on this call, and once in a while, hey, you know, so and so, and like, no, nobody's gonna change the dynamic. This is the 4 of us. This is like a brotherhood, right?
Were you guys on the phone, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone's dialed in.
It wasn't a face. Like
no, it was just a phone call.
Yeah, this is so
what happened was eventually when I started to study and really start to understand this information, I started to think to myself, I really want to share this. And I was sharing it wherever I could. I wouldn't just randomly walk up to you on the street and start telling you about these things. But in conversation, I would share and it would help people. And eventually it led to me being asked to speak to 2 companies that were mortgage broker companies in Cancun, Mexico. So I was affirming at the time, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm being asked to speak to large audiences all over the world. I had no idea how it was going to happen. I didn't even think it was like a thing, right? But I gave myself permission to write it, and it felt real to me. Like it wasn't beyond my self-image. I know I can express things in a certain way. So it wasn't hard for me to get in harmony with it, if you understand what that means, right? Like I find it hard right now to get in harmony with owning a yacht and traveling on a private jet. It doesn't mean it's never going to happen. I don't know. But right now, I'm not worried about it, right? I know I can't relate to that. So when I did this talk, a lot of people heard information that, you know, they wanted to hear more about. So I was encouraged to do a workshop when I got back. And so I did. And at the end of that workshop, because I'm very well aware, again, you might become aware of things on this call right now, where you're like, yeah, that makes sense, and that's what I'm doing. But you're going to go back to your habitual way of doing things. The awareness, like the fact that you became consciously aware of this, doesn't change anything in your life. Just like if I become consciously aware that if I go to the gym and eat right, I'll, you know, look better, feel better, live longer, get stronger, have abs, and the whole thing. Unless I'm doing the crunches, eating Twinkies isn't going to give me the abs, right? So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
We got to understand that it's changing the program that's creating the habitual behavior. We have a program, it's called a paradigm, and it influences all of our habitual behavior. 95% of what we do is habitual. So you got to understand, you want to change the program. So me, knowing that these guys were about to walk out of the room and go out again to eating Twinkies and things, I said, am I allowed to say Twinkies? Are you allowed to say like name brand things?
We're fine with that. We're fine with that.
So I'm figuring it out as we go, right? So I invited them to join me on this call in the morning, but it was like it wasn't me asking them to join. It was I could hear the words leave my tongue, and I'd be thinking, what are you saying right now?
Wow, you had a moment to step into being a bigger version of yourself, and you had to fit in. It's almost like a lobster breaking out of a shell, that discomfort of like, now I'm gonna have to show up as someone else. That's what that thought probably was, right?
And you know what? I didn't even have to choose it. Again, I don't want to get too trippy at this point, but your subconscious knows how to get you the thing that you're in harmony with.
Yeah.
If you're in harmony with 200 pounds of extra weight, or if you're in harmony with earning a lot of money or being broke, your subconscious will tune into opportunities and drive you into action to make sure that that's what's manifesting in your life. I was in harmony with sharing this information with people all over the world. I didn't know how to do it, but somewhere in the subconscious, it knew how to get me that result. So I heard myself inviting the people in the room to come on, to reach out. If you want to join us on the call, reach out. And I think I got 4 people on that who reached out. And I was like, oh, what do I do now? So 7 or 8 of us And then from that, you know, one of them, I remember one of them distinctly kept asking, I did a deal last night with this guy, and I was telling him about this call that I'm on. He really wants to come on. I'm like, no, dude, we're already 8 people. And so I was still resisting it.
We're talking about this hero journey, about the hero getting to this point and being like, I'm not the guy, man. I'm not the guy. You got to go look somewhere else. I'm not the one. Like and then having to constantly be like destiny knocking.
Yeah, and as long as you're taking action, those doors will keep opening. That knock will keep coming, and you just got to keep taking action towards it. So I think I got to the point where there were 17 people on the call.
What did that demand of you? What new thing did that demand of you that it didn't demand with 4 people?
I'm so happy you asked that. What a great question. You know how good that question is right now?
Yes. He's like, yes, I'm ready.
I'm Italian. When we were on the call with the 4 of us, there'd be times where I wouldn't wake up and I would sleep through the call.
Yeah.
And they'd get on the phone and be like, I guess there's no call today. And so I failed a number of times before. Like, so people see me now and they're like, oh my God, Joe doesn't ever miss a day. And then they compare themselves to that.
Yes.
And they think they're not capable. But what they didn't see is that hero's journey that you're talking about, right? Where I was being qualified, where I was sleeping in, where I was failing. And because I didn't stop, and this is another important, you don't fail until you stop. So what it did for me, accountability. Right now I had a bigger group. I don't even know half of these people. I got to show up.
They rely on you.
And the way it was before, it was the 4 of us, so we would all kind of interact and talk. Now it was more, I was taking more of a leadership role. And again, the law of polarity. With leadership, and the law of giving and receiving. Because I was giving, do you know how much I got back? Because now I'm showing up every single day. I'm studying every single day. I'm making sure I go to bed at this time so I can wake up in the morning. And I'm listening and paying attention in a way that I never did before. So because I'm in this place of service, automatically getting the effects of that. So it made me more aware. I did not speak this way 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And not that I'm speaking in any special way, but there's a confidence that comes after having done things a certain amount of times. And some of that is falling on your face. Yeah. And we don't see that part.
I love when he laughs.
Right? But now when you understand that, now it's like, bring it.
Yeah.
Even if there's like, I'm going to make an ass out of myself. Like, bring it. I know it's part of the journey. I don't necessarily want to pay that price, but if that's how I got to learn, then fine, bring it.
And now how many people are on the call?
So live on Zoom, I don't know how many members. I think there's 110, 120 members. You
can ask Laura.
But we changed the structure of it. But we were up to 1,200 members.
Yep.
Or 1,200 people that said they wanted to be on the wake-up call. Most of them never made it on a call because you make the decision now when you're thinking on purpose. And then when you're on autopilot, when your alarm goes off at 5:30 in the morning, it convinces you to just stay in bed. You don't need to get up. What's this call going to do for you?
So many people need to hear this. So many people need to hear this.
Yeah, so you make a conscious decision and you just keep trying until you start showing up. So we went from 1,200 to, I think the community is like 120 people now. There's about 50, 60 people on the East Coast call, and then I've just launched the West Coast call. There's about 15, 20 people on that. But it's growing. Every week we get new members. And
what are some of because I'm so excited to hear, what are some of the communities that happened? So you created this connection and you brought these people together, but I'm sure that these people went out on their own and started creating things from what they got from the call. What are some of those examples?
Oh my goodness. Well, there's 2 ladies right now. They've collaborated and created I think it's like a financial literacy or some sort of investment coaching program for women. Love. And women empowerment. There's the 2 of you, I think would probably, if you trace it back.
We qualify for that.
Is born of that, right?
Yeah.
You mean with members coming together, or even just people going off and doing their own?
Oh my God, doing like crazy stuff.
There's so many.
Yeah. Like their results and what they've gotten from the simple act of accountability and of showing up consistently on something as seemingly silly as the 5 a.m. call where you listen to people reading books, quote unquote. It's so much bigger than that.
Yeah. And for the record, like, it's not a book club. The reason why we read books, we read them to understand what's in the book. And so we read for about 15, 20 minutes, and then I go back and I explain a lot of the things that are in the book and then relate them again to our lives, to our work, to our relationships. And so you're getting what you're supposed to get. It's the understanding of things that kind of hits the core and causes you to behave differently or have different kind of faith. Faith based on understanding is different than like blind faith or like it's philosophical, right? And I love philosophy, but to understand that there are things that ensure, that guarantee that like the laws operate perfectly every time for everyone. And we all have complete liberty to operate with these laws and to use them. But we're violating them because we don't even know what they are. How the hell do you operate something perfectly or even remotely resembling something that is proper and to favor you if you don't even know that they exist? So just becoming aware of something can change everything. And so that, along with, the fact that we have higher mental faculties. And the word education, this is right from Think and Grow Rich, comes from a Latin root educo, which means to draw out or to develop from within. To draw out, and you said it, right? Like, what is it that people are looking to do? Is to find their purpose or to have passion or whatever, to draw out or to develop from within. That monster inside you that's just like shaking the cage because it's dying to get out, and you keep suppressing it and keeping it locked up by your messed up way of thinking.
Yeah,
it wanted to come.
Yeah. Saw the filter happen as it was happening in real time.
Because we're like, there's that energy is inside of us, and it knows it can have more. It's looking to express itself, and by our thinking, we suppress it. So understanding even that relationship, and that we're limited by the thoughts that we think, but also that we have these higher mental faculties to draw out or to develop from within. He says, education is not necessarily acquiring an abundance of knowledge, of specialized or general knowledge. It is developing your higher mental faculties to the degree that you can have anything you want without violating the rights of others. How do you develop your higher mental faculties if you don't know which ones they are? So
this is a perfect opportunity to ask this. So we understand them. I mean, I study them with you on a regular basis, but for those people that are listening or tuning in on YouTube that have no clue what you're talking about, like what is a higher mental faculty?
No, I know. And so I'm always going back, what does this sound like?
Yeah. So here's the thing, because we study it. So for us, it's first nature. We understand what you're talking about. But for other people, they're like, what
happened to Joe? He's lost.
What? Like, I didn't learn this in school.
Mental
what does
faculties.
This mean? Yeah, Joe, tell us a little bit more about what that is.
So we have higher mental faculties. They're in our conscious mind. Okay, so conscious, subconscious, conscious, where you have the ability to think, you have the ability to choose your thoughts, you can accept or reject any idea, you can create. Subconscious is where basically you have no ability to choose. You can only accept anything that's impressed upon it. It has no ability to determine what's real or what's imagined. That's why you can hypnotize a person and get them to cluck like a chicken in front of 1,000 people.
I've done that before.
Yeah.
I'm never getting on a stage.
Right? And you had no control over that because conscious mind was taken right out. You got right into your subconscious. Wow. And actually, our bodies respond to anything that the subconscious believes. So if you were hypnotized to believe that you were standing at the top of Everest in your bathing suit, you'd probably get goosebumps, right? And your body temperature would drop. And that is an effect from the subconscious believing, accepting to be true that you're standing at the top of Everest, even though you're in this room, right?
If there was ever a good example to explain how your thoughts can manifest as reality, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope we have time to hear about your hypnosis.
Oh, no. It's not that fun. It's not fun at all. It's awful. It's awful. Let's move on.
Yeah. It's not fun to be operating from the subconscious without having any control, right?
It sucks.
So in our conscious mind, we have the ability to think. And we have our faculties. We also have our senses, our hear, see, smell, taste, and touch, where we bring in the information to our conscious mind, where then we can think. Well, our thinking is done by our perception, our reason, will, intuition, imagination, and our memory. So those are our higher mental faculties, right? I'll say them again. Imagination, intuition, perception, reason,
intuition,
the will,
Intuition.
And
I like that one.
did I
That was
say
my
memory?
favorite.
I probably just messed up the order.
There's no order.
Yeah, so there's no, but
Is there?
I
There's
don't know
no
if I
order,
said,
Joe?
no, there's no
Okay.
order. I just want to make sure I get all 6 of them. So imagination, reason, perception, intuition, memory, imagination.
Will, I think.
Did I say anyone twice?
said
I think you said imagination twice.
Did I say the will?
We got
Somebody
it.
write these down. Anyways,
Those are the mental
the
faculties,
will,
the higher ones.
memory, imagination, intuition, reason. Did I say intuition?
You did.
Yes. It's okay. We got it there. So
Perception?
perception.
Okay.
That
There
was
it
it.
is,
Yes.
perception.
Yes.
Love it.
I should have memorized those in a certain order. So if you think about, we create in our imagination, right? Worrying is like praying for something you don't want. You don't get what you want, you get what you're in harmony with. It's how are you using your imagination? The truth is we're using it all the time. But we don't use it on purpose. We don't use it to create the image for what we want. Now, it doesn't stop at that. You have to have the will. The will is your ability to focus on something. So if you're like me, you get distracted. There's like, I'll be in the car, I'll be like, okay, I got to listen to this. And I don't know, 4 seconds later, I realize, oh man, I forgot to pay
Gotta
attention.
record again. Gotta go back, rewind.
Go back, listen to it
Yeah.
again, and then 7 seconds, like, oh, I forgot to pay attention. And you keep doing that. And there's nothing wrong with you. It's just we go into autopilot, right? So it's developing your will. And that now you can learn to bring your focus back to the image that you created in your imagination if you spend time building the image you want, not just imagining. Like my mother uses her imagination to worry, right? Like
Mine too.
you're 5 seconds late, then your car is in a ditch, and it's like the worst case scenario.
Mom, stop creating our reality.
Yeah. So imagine using these things for what you want. Memory. We're always thinking or remembering the result of an undesired result, right?
Yeah.
Or how we said something. I shouldn't have said that. Oh, I must have sounded so stupid. Like, I don't think about what I said 10 seconds ago. I don't care. It's done. I can't take it back. I can't change it. It's there. It's
The
there forever.
Italian just came out. It's done.
It's done. It's finished. Like
I love it.
Right? So why do we remember what we shouldn't be remembering? What I should remember is the vision that I want to live by, or some of these principles that I want to live by, or the decision that I want it to be less judgmental. And again, it's now that I'm consciously using my higher mental faculties and I become aware, you know what? I'm a little judgy. I'm going to write an affirmation. I'm so happy and grateful now that I don't judge anyone or anything. I see only the good in people. And only by the repetition of that new idea can I replace the old, oh, look at this guy's pants.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy. That's not who I am, right? So it's making a decision with these higher mental faculties, understanding what you're doing with them and what you're creating, and then you get to write the program for what you want. So when you're in autopilot, when you're in the subconscious, it's going to serve us more towards what we want.
So I'm thinking about goals, right? And so everything that you're talking about right now is, you're taking action, you're imagining, and there's something that we all look for and that we want, right? So Joe, I think you have a deeper understanding of goals that not everyone understands. I think if you ask any person who doesn't study this stuff, when you think of a goal could be something, that you think that you can achieve or something that you've been wanting to do, but help us understand what a goal means to you based on all the study that you've done. What is a goal? Help break that down for us.
Yeah. We've been taught about SMART goals, right? Small, measurable, attainable, whatever the heck kind of goals. Boring. You get motivated by either desperation or inspiration. So if you're not desperate, like I was desperate when I started to really take these things on, you got to get inspired. And I think a small goal isn't really going to inspire you. The purpose of a goal is to cause you to grow. And if you really understand this and accept it, you'll actually give yourself permission to set the goal. Because you'll get the thing, but it's not about getting the thing. You look at the awards or whatever on your, whatever goal you've achieved. Like if I look at the goals that I've achieved, they're great, but it doesn't stop there. It's who I've become. And there's a lot to that. Like there's understanding that you have to let go of how it's going to happen. Like really, it's the how that stops us from setting a goal, right? And this by no means suggests that you never start asking the question, like, what should I do? Or what are the things I need to action in order to get me closer to my goal.
It's just not letting that stop you from making the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you understand the purpose of a goal is to cause you to grow. And then once you have the goal, and it's also, I think a lot of people have trouble deciding what they want. It's not one thing that you want. I think it's maybe something that you want now, or you got a list of things, write them all down, put them in order of the thing that you want the most, and then decide which one you're going to go for now, right? And if it's 10 things that you want right now, or just pick one. Close your eyes, pick one.
Like what you were saying, I want to speak in front of, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm speaking in front of people. Is that the type of, I just want to distinguish between the goals that are in materially based, that are necessarily not going to actually inspire you, like you think they will, or the actual goals that are going to have you take action, which inspires service, which gives service. So it's distinguishing, like, are there two types of goals to have, and one being better than the other, more attainable, is the question.
Yeah. So, oh my God, this is such a long answer I want to give you.
Yes.
Can I give you a long answer?
Yes, do it. Yes.
Oh man, I'm going to forget where I was going to go.
We'll bring it back.
So when I set that goal, it wasn't really a goal. You're right. It was kind of a goal. And I'll explain. So I was still a mortgage broker at the time. And I started to achieve very different results in my income and my volume and the way I was working. I was working less, making way more money. So I had a goal for my mortgage business. It was a volume goal. And I was hitting that. I was on my way to that. But I also became aware that, so remember when I said I wasn't happy in the industry, I was always with one foot out, and then I changed and I became grateful that I'm in this industry.
Yeah.
Well, part of that was also understanding that this may be not my purpose. This is probably not what I'm meant to do for the rest of my life, but it's what I'm doing now. And this is going to give me the opportunity and bring me to uncovering what my purpose is. So by focusing on my mortgage business, I was able to express myself more fully, bringing more of me to that table. And it's not like you lose what you brought to that table. You've grown. I become aware, if you can do it, I can do it too. And all that conversation.
This is where people get confused, right? People get confused because they think that they're supposed to up and like quit their jobs and move their lives to this other place and to move forward with this, but don't consider the route that
I'm not selling the pipe dream on a physical level. No, I'm a dreamer, but it's all I call myself a realistic optimist, right? If you decided you want to start a business, but it doesn't make sense financially because you've got a big mortgage and you're the only income producer and you've got kids you got to feed, don't quit your job and then go try to make it happen. Figure out maybe what you can start doing towards that while you continue working.
By changing those thoughts as well, right? Like changing that. Yeah,
and you have to accept the idea that it's possible. There's a lot of things that are I have a life script. I shared it this morning. There's a lot of things in there that when I wrote were like a pipe dream, but I actually allowed myself to think and to write down clear skies, right? Perfect conditions, exactly the way I wanted it to be. And looking forward again, well, how the heck's that going to happen? A mortgage broker has to be accessible on their cell phone all the time. And you have all these things that we've just accepted to be true. But you have to accept the new idea. Contrary to what you already believe, this new idea is going to feel like a lie. Because what's programmed in you is a lie. So because of the contradiction, it feels like a lie, but it's not a lie. And the way you have those beliefs within you now that you didn't choose probably for the most part, we just accepted them somehow. We have to repeat this new idea until it becomes the truth. Because you tell a lie enough times, it becomes the truth.
You'll believe it, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So when I set the goal, it was actually, I had a financial goal for my mortgage business, but I did become aware that I think I became obsessed with this information because in a heartbeat, you become aware of something that can change everything, and it's maybe you're hearing this and it's not right, but you hear it at the right time, or you hear it in a way that you didn't hear it before. And you know how you said this is where people get confused? Yeah, because the speaker is also going off on a train of thought and maybe forgetting to return back and explain this part of it. Yeah. And because this is one-way conversation, it's a conversation here, but it's going out, those people aren't coming back, which is another reason why the call is so good. It's because now you have an opportunity to ask the speaker, hey, Joe, what did you mean by this? And what does it mean here? Whereas when somebody's on stage or when you're listening to a YouTube video or this podcast, it's incredible, but you don't get to ask the question that clears it up for you, or to say to the speaker, hey, dude, you didn't finish what the heck you were starting to say, right? So that it was more of a cop-out on my part, I'll be honest. That affirmation that I wanted to share this information with people all over the world, that I'm being asked to speak, because I didn't want to be called a coach. I had a problem, big paradigm with the word coach at the time. I didn't see myself as a coach, but I knew I wanted to share it. And I know I wasn't going to do Instagram videos and go on, and I have nothing against it. It's just not me. It's not who I am. And so I can't get in harmony with those things. So I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, but I allowed myself to just see being asked. Because I'm not going to go and say, hey, do you want me to speak at your convention? I want it to be asked. So it was, again, being able to accept an idea. I don't want to sell thinking into results. I want people to ask me, to lead them through thinking into results.
Be the example, and then them see that and go and bring themselves to you.
Yeah. And so the goal, I think, has to be measurable. I think there has to be some way of knowing that you've arrived. I like money goals, understanding that it's not about the money, it's what the money allows you to do. We cannot express ourselves fully without money. We need the use of things. And the only thing that gets us the use of those things is money. You can't even play tennis for no money. You can't run. You can't even go for a jog with no money. That's the reality. And because people are so caught up on making excuses and justifying where they are, they'll say things like, money's the root of all evil, or money doesn't bring you happiness. Well, no, absolutely no. It doesn't in itself. But it brings more of you to the surface. If you give money to an asshole, you get a bigger asshole. Yeah. It just amplifies who you are already. Yeah. So I like the money goals, or operating a business goal, or whatever the goal is. I think it has to be measurable. There should be a date on it, and you just ask the question, who do I need to become to get that goal? And it's, we don't understand. We've heard it, but we don't be, do, have. Well, become the person. Talk to people the way a person who already has the goal. Think from the end. Project that energy. Serve in that way. And it's that behavior that gets you the results. And another thing we've been taught is work hard, have success, and then you'll be happy. It's not that. It's be happy.
I'm getting goosebumps as he says these things.
Be happy. Like, you guys are happy. Yeah. So as a result, you're doing great work. Yeah. And because of the great work you're doing, you're going to have success. It's cause and effect. We're chasing effects. And that's, symptoms. We're treating symptoms. Yeah. We know that we're going to eat the burrito. It's going to give us heartburn, but that's okay because I can have Rolaids when I go to bed. Yeah. And so we keep eating the burrito. It's making us sick, but we keep smashing the Tums, and or we're eating stuff that's giving us acne, so we keep putting the cream on, but the acne's still there. What's the cause? If the money situation isn't what you want, there's a cause. We're trying to change the effect. We're trying to change the money. It's not the money.
We have to keep going back to that, because you cannot stress enough that wherever you are in your life, the solution isn't to exit that situation always. The solution could be to look around and to see the new things that are there that you've been missing the entire time.
Acre of diamonds. You're sitting on an acre of diamonds right where you are. You just got to tune into something different. The reticular activating system and all of that. And guys, I'm not a scientist. Like, really, I didn't study this stuff. Yeah. I mean, this has organically, I've become aware of this stuff, and then you start to connect this to that. As a result, the cause of it, reading to understand. And over time, you gain an understanding. And I think we buy a book or read a book or watch a documentary because we need the understanding and we expect to get it on that one read. But we're not willing to pay the price. So it's whatever you choose, and you have the right to choose. And if you choose whatever's in your life right now, it's your choice. Perfect. And no one should judge that. But I think what everybody has to become aware of is that they don't have to accept it anymore. If there's something that they want, they can have it. I believe that to my core. I know this. I don't think I know. I used to think, I think maybe,
That makes sense.
But
Yeah.
now I
do
know if you want it, you can have it. You got to be willing to pay the price. And paying the price doesn't mean you got to bust your ass. Doesn't mean you got to work. Oh, I don't want. Yeah, but if you're gonna make that much money, you got to work. I got to work 20 hours a day. No, it's not true. That's your paradigm taking over your reasoning faculty. You're not using it on purpose. It's your paradigm using it to stop you. Hey, this is a threat now. You're going to change. You're going to change my comfort level here. You're going to get off the couch, and I don't want you to do that. So
We're safe here. We're safe here.
yeah.
That sounds
So
not
you
safe.
know, if you really want that, you're going to have to work so hard. It's not. I've never worked. Oh, I shouldn't say this out loud. I've never worked more in the area that I want to. Like it doesn't even feel like work. When you do what you love, you know, there's that quote: "Do what you love, you never work a day in your life." So, and part of that is growing into the person that can have your goal. As you're doing that, you're starting to uncover your purpose. And when you start to do that and you start to live that more often, you know, you uncover more of it. And there's always more to bring to the surface. We're unlimited. Like, we're limitless beings.
Would you say that it's that sometimes the purpose we think we have is really not it, and to be open and accepting of the very clear destiny knocking?
Yeah, I think we can't be attached to what we think it's supposed to look like, right? Like, I didn't know that that the way I'd be sharing this with people all over the world was going to be through a Zoom call. So if I was attached to it looking a certain way, like I was going to have a channel on PBS or something, I don't know. Then I would have prevented or stood in the way of what I think is like, I love it. Because, you know, I used to think, well, if I'm gonna do that, then I gotta like, I remember when I was preparing for that talk, it was like torture for me because I speak from inspiration. Like, I love what we're doing right now. I could do it all day, every day. I love it. But if you tell me, okay, Joe, you got 45 minutes to talk and to
you
prepare
need to
for that,
structure this whole thing so that it goes from here to here to 45 minutes.
How do I leave out like 4 years of stuff that I learned for those 40? Like, I don't know. I don't like to make those kind of decisions. But it's it was, if I think back, I didn't want to have to prepare, because in that experience I was like, no, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to talk to people anymore. I don't know if I want to be asked to speak to large audiences anymore. And so I started to think of the reality, the possibility that I could without having to prepare for it, right? So now I don't prepare for the calls in the morning. I get up. What page did we leave off on? We start reading. As we're reading, I'm highlighting, and I'm in spirit. I'm inspired in spirit to share whatever comes, right? And so, and I'm not selling anything. People become aware if they feel it's for them. They ask me to enroll them into thinking. I mean, I make it known that it's there and it's available. So you can design it any way you want, but you got to think from the end. The means by which it's going to happen is going to look very different. So if you and I say, let's go to LA, Bianca, we're going to drive to LA. We're going to take a 5-day trip. First stop, I really got to figure out a route, but let's say it's New York, and there's a traffic jam, and I don't know, all the highways are, and we can't go where we thought we were going to go on day one. We don't cancel LA. We don't say, okay, screw it, we're not going to LA. Let's turn back and go home. Yeah. Or we don't say, forget it, let's just go to BC instead. The way in which we get there, the route we take might change. Things are going to come up, but we're going to end up in LA as long as you persist. And that's the same with our goal. Your goal, whatever your goal is, your goal does not change. The way in which you're going to get there will change. So can your purpose, you figure something out? Sometimes, sometimes we set goals because we think that's what makes us look successful. It's society's goal. It's not our goal. I know lawyers that became lawyers and they never wanted to become a lawyer. And now they're dealing with this internal conflict because how do you give up all that time but you won't have lost what you learned in becoming a lawyer. You know? So I think the purpose is something you uncover. You don't find it outside of you. You uncover it. And as long as you keep taking action, and being constructively objective in, you know, your failures and what you need. Like, you can't beat yourself up because you're not enough of this, or because you procrastinate, or because you're not getting to the gym, whatever. You just look at it, what do I want? And focus on what you want. The only thing that can grow is that which you give energy to. I want to say that like 7,000 times on this podcast.
You can say it again.
But it's true. How quickly we go and we start beating ourselves up for what we haven't done well, or because we're more of this and not enough of that. But just focus on what you want. And sometimes that's the quality that you need to become the person. Sometimes it's the discipline that you need to become the person that can have your goal. But the game changes when you understand that you're dealing with law, not man-made law, not the kind of law that, you know, if you're doing 20 over the speed limit, the cop might
give you a ticket
for 10 over, or reduce the fine, or let you off. Yeah. These are universal laws. It's like the law of gravity. You never get a free pass. They apply to every single person. Doesn't matter where you are, whether you're broke as hell or rich, whether you're black or white, whether you live in Mexico or Canada. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the environment that you're in. So understand that by becoming aware of the fact that you can operate in harmony with these laws, your environment doesn't stand a chance.
Tied it back in. Did you see how you did that? That was magic.
I didn't even mean to
We
do
love
that.
it.
That was pretty good. That was
He's
pretty
like,
good.
I gotta pat myself on the back. That was pretty good. Now, okay, so now you said earlier, you said that, you know, your life looked a certain way prior to this transformation, and we know that you're transforming people's lives and that you've done well financially. But what about home life? What changed in the home life when this perspective changed? What did that look like? What was the benefit of that?
I'm a completely different father. Completely. Relationship, you know, I Southern Italian, double standards, like you would not have liked me a few years back. You know?
Glad we have you on now, not years ago.
Yeah. No, but you know what?
To have that awareness, to have the awareness to look at it, to make a joke about it.
But that's the thing with our lives.
Wonderful.
It's that exact thing. But no, my parenting style is very, very different. I didn't think I'd ever be the kind of dad that is allowing or okay with things.
Yeah.
Like my daughter just started driving. She's 17, just got her a car and she's out, she's driving around. I don't worry, you know. I know that the previous version of me, I don't even know if
she wouldn't even got a car.
Yeah, she wouldn't be allowed out of the house.
Here's a
like,
tricycle.
Where are you going? You know,
Yeah.
Go wash the dishes.
Yeah.
And I know I say that jokingly. I know it's not funny, but
they're still not horrible values, right? That's still not horrible.
Well, here's the thing about paradigms.
Yeah.
You get paradigms aren't good or bad.
Yeah.
Right? They just are. Everything just is. We make it what it is by our thinking, right? But there's paradigms that serve us and there's the ones that don't. So I have certain beliefs or certain paradigms, certain values or customs or whatever you want to call them, standards that I know might be a little bit offside.
Yeah.
But I get to choose whether I want to keep them.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. I like chivalry.
Yeah.
I want to hold the door open for a lady.
Yes.
You know, I want to walk on the street side of the sidewalk. Like, I get to choose. Or I say, man, I don't know if that's serving me anymore. I gotta change that. Doesn't make sense in my life. So now I'm in a position to look at everything that I believe and question whether I question the belief, hold it up to the light. Where the hell did this come from? Do I want it? Is it serving me? Do I want to change it? And yeah. I know it's kind of like double standardish, but I like it. Right? So it's affected the way I parent. Absolutely. It's caused me to understand things about my relationship with my dad, my parents, my, other people in your life. It's just, you become more compassionate, understanding that they are who they are as a result of their paradigms. You eat what you eat because your parents fed it to you, probably up until a certain point. Like, if I'm talking to a vegetarian, chances are they weren't born a vegetarian. Maybe some were, but at some point they made a decision. Mm-hmm. And then it took a conscious effort to choose to eat vegetables, to not eat meat, to whatever, right? And only after a time it became natural, it became habitual, where they don't have to think anymore.
Yeah.
So you become a vegetarian because you're deciding every day that you're not going to eat meat. At any moment, you can eat a piece of meat. You're no longer a vegetarian. If you're a criminal because you're choosing to continue stealing or to continue doing whatever the hell you're doing. Because I'm a mortgage broker because that's what I choose to do every morning. I choose to do mortgage broker things. But if tomorrow morning I wake up and start gardening, I'm going to be a gardener or an author or whatever the heck I want. You know the most fascinating story? I don't know if you've heard this. You know, the Nobel Prize is named after Alfred Nobel. He's an actual dude.
Oh.
He is known for having invented dynamite and, I don't know, all kinds of weapons. And, well, he's known. He was responsible for those inventions. And his brother passed away. And a paper mistakenly wrote the obituary on his life, thinking it was Alfred Nobel that passed away. So the headline read,
Wow.
Dr. Death or Mr. Destruction, something like this.
He was the one with the atom bomb. He was the creator of the atom bomb. Yeah.
So he was known as the guy that, you know, caused all this. And so he's reading his obituary and he realizes, oh my God, I don't want to be remembered this way. What the heck? And
Wow.
that's where the Nobel Prize was founded. He made a decision that he left a trust and that's where the money would be used. I didn't know.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. To leave behind a legacy that was actually going to do some good in the world versus...
Change what you're remembered for.
Yeah.
You're not who you've been. The moment you decide to take a different action, you're not who you've been. But you gotta let it go. You gotta choose something new. And then you gotta understand. Like so in my parenting of my kids, see how I bring it back? Oh my God, we're getting better at this. So in parenting my kids, let's say you have a kid that burps. Not that my kids don't burp, okay? They're nice,
ladies.
classy
They're
ladies.
ladies.
Yes. But let's say, they get in the habit of burping and you say, hey, don't burp, it's rude. And then, 10 minutes later you hear them burp. Most parents, I told you not to burp. And we get mad. But I understand now, hold on a second, the behavior is not going to change just because I told them to change it.
Yeah.
It's going to change by repetition. Just like you learn to brush your teeth. Hey, did you brush your teeth? Let me see. Did you brush your teeth? And so by repetition, the kid knows eventually they just start brushing their teeth. And they don't have to consciously think or be told anymore. But that happened through repetition.
Yeah.
Just like somebody stopping a bad habit happens by repetition. But you got to replace a bad habit with a good habit, right? I think so often we're trying to stop things. Like if you're going to quit smoking, replace it with a good habit. Go for a walk or meditate or have a celery stick. Have a glass of water.
That's a good one.
Replace it.
Have you ever smoked?
Me? Oh my God, yeah. I smoked and quit a number of times.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take it back.
How did that celery stick work out for you?
You know what? I took a turn. In an instant, I remember I had 5 or 6 cigarettes left in my pack. I smoked one after the other. I went straight to the gym. Joined the gym. I booked a nutritionist, and I think I went to the health food store. I bought like all kinds of stuff, and it was just a new identity.
That was it.
Wow.
That was it.
Quick.
Now I quit for 10 years. Yeah, but I had quit and failed a few times before that. One time I had quit for 5 months. Then I was at a barbecue. I was like, I can have a butt. Like
Just one.
Yeah.
just one, right? Socially.
Back to a pack a day in like
it's been
a week.
5 months.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and then like an hour later, I had a cigarette like an hour ago. I'll have another one tomorrow. I just won't smoke tomorrow.
Yeah,
and then tomorrow I was like, I had a couple cigarettes yesterday. Yeah, okay, I'll have one. And then the next thing you know, you're buying a pack.
Very good example of what happens when you don't keep repeating and you let that one thought take over again, the old paradigm. And then
be do have.
Yeah.
A non-smoker doesn't have a smoke at a barbecue.
Because he's a non-smoker. Yeah.
Right? So it's be a non-smoker. Don't do things that a non-smoker would do, right? And then, for me, it was going to the gym, and I just really wanted to be healthy. Unfortunately, I started smoking again. After 10 years, I had the occasional cigarette. And even though I was like, I don't know if you should do that, because remember the time?
You talk to yourself back and forth.
10 years.
Do you remember the time?
And this happened, I think, during COVID. I don't even know. I started smoking again here and there. And then I was in the variety store and I was buying a pack. I felt so sick. And now I'm the leader of the wake-up call.
Yeah.
And I'm having a get-together at my house. So I invited the community over. And I remember a couple of the members coming up the street, and I was at the front having a butt with a couple of the people. And I have this, and I'm like, this isn't right. Like, I had to step in the role of who I was. And so, remember when you asked me how me leading the call has served me in certain ways?
Changes.
Well, it ups the level. Like, you have to be, living by the principles that you're preaching about.
Yeah.
Let's say. And I don't preach, but that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
you quit again.
I quit. Yes,
absolutely.
That's what I was
waiting for. That's what I was waiting for.
Yes, I quit again. Yeah.
All right. So the lessons are: never give up, change your thoughts, change your paradigm, change your life. Joe, we have been so blessed to have you on this call. We are coming to the end of this call. Look.
Okay, then let me say this.
This call. Yeah. I'm turning it to you. This call.
Yeah.
This podcast, guys. This podcast.
Then I'm gonna say this then, because this is important as you're saying that. Related to the goal. Understand we're goal striving mechanisms. We're gonna fail ourselves to the target. I know I am going to continue failing. I'm gonna step into my grave still looking to become a better version of myself. So cut yourself some slack. Failure is definitely part of it.
Fail up.
Yeah.
If you can just wrap this up, because I want to share this with younger audiences. What would you share, just to wrap up this episode, to someone who's in high school and watching this? Because I will be sharing this with younger people to help them kind of start stepping into all the things that we're teaching, what you're teaching and learning at a young age. What could you leave them with?
Every time I'm asked this question, it's something different that I say.
And you can shamelessly plug your call in here or your contact information, but
so every time I'm asked this is a different. See, there's it's like a cake. Okay, there's all kinds of different ingredients, and you can't.
There's so many food analogies. Are you hungry, Joe?
I am actually.
Yeah, me too.
I am.
Tell us about the cake.
I would say understand that the people directing you in your life are adults who are figuring out how to be parents, who are figuring out to be better teachers, who are just doing the best they can from their level of awareness. Mm-hmm. If you've ever been made to feel stupid, or if you think you're not good in math or some other subject, or if you think you're not as cool as the other kids, or if you think you're too cool to do something, just ask yourself, what do you really want? And don't let other people tell you who you are according to what you've experienced so far. Make up your mind that you're going to go after what you want always, and understand that you can have it. You just need to study. Don't let school stand in the way of your education. Jim Quick says that. Mm-hmm. It's like, and I'm not saying, absolutely stay in school, study. It's so important. But there's education that you need for you. Like, I didn't understand any of this. And Bianca, I could have lived the rest of my life struggling, settling for a lot less than I'm capable of achieving because I wasn't educated in this way. And so regardless of the path you're going to take, whether you want to be a plumber, a mechanic, a lawyer, a doctor, a philanthropist, whatever, just understand that you have everything that you need already inside you, and you just need to become aware of how to use those gifts.
Beautiful.
Perfect. I love it. Okay, wrap up this episode, Jess.
I mean, I think Joe just did it for us. Joe, how can people connect with you or join the Wake Up Call or even study Thinking to Results with you?
JoeTrimboli.com. Sign up for the Wake Up Call. Reach out. I think there's a contact us there. I'd love to hear from anybody. Anything you're struggling with, reach out. Absolutely. It doesn't have to be the way it's been. So I really look forward. I think you guys are doing incredibly good work. I love it. I can't wait to see all the good that's coming. I know it's on its way. So I celebrate it with you. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. And for those of you that are thinking 5 o'clock is too early, Joe has now implemented a new feature where you actually get a phone call, right?
Oh yes, yeah.
What's the feature?
So
it's not. Joe's not calling every single individual person.
Well, I am.
Okay, Joe is calling every single individual person.
So you know how you can schedule a wake up call when you're at a hotel?
Yeah.
Well, we have that service. So if
That's badass,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, so no
So
more
look at your phone to ring.
excuses.
Yeah.
We also have a West Coast call, so it would be 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. So
Wow, so you
again,
can choose your
5:30 doesn't
time.
work.
You can choose your time, guys, if it doesn't work, because he wants you to change your paradigm, and that's incredible, Joe. Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow, thank
I
you.
think 5:30 is the magical hour, but
I agree.
if
I
you
do
can't
too.
make it work for whatever reason, then
Yeah.
8:30 is an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe, your blessing. Thank you so much for joining Bianca and I,
Thank you
and we
so
look
much,
forward
ladies.
to hosting you again.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Till
Thank you.
next time, find your place.